No one in that bar realized they were sitting beside a man trained to end chaos in seconds. Not the bartender, not the crowd, not even the group of punks who had just pulled out a knife. All they knew was this: Steven Seagal was sitting alone, and a blade had just flashed in the light. No shouting, no warning, no drama. Just one sudden movement and a silence so heavy it felt dangerous. But here's the twist: Steven didn't strike first. He didn't panic. He didn't run. He did something no one expected. The knife wasn't meant to scare. It was meant to send a message, a threat, a warning, a challenge. People nearby froze. Some backed away. Others stared. No one spoke. Steven didn't move, not yet. He didn't reach for anything. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even stand. He just watched. The man holding the knife took a step closer, then another. The distance between them closed. The tension rose. The room felt smaller. Everyone expected violence. But what happened next wasn't violence. It was control. It was restraint. It was something far more unsettling than anger. Steven lifted his eyes, calm, focused, unshaken. And in that moment, the man with the knife felt something change. Not fear, not pain. Authority. The kind that doesn't ask, it doesn't shout, it doesn't threaten. It simply exists, and the entire bar felt it. Have you ever watched a moment unfold where everything felt normal? Then suddenly nothing was normal at all. The bar was loud but ordinary: music, lauter glasses clinking. Steven sat at the far end, low profile, no attention. Just another man having a drink after a long day. Across the room a group of young men entered together, loud, confident, full of aggressive energy. They pushed past people, took over a section near the bar, started drinking fast. At first nothing felt wrong, just noise, just attitude. But then small signs appeared. A chair kicked out of place, a drink knocked over, a stranger shoved. Most people ignored it. Steven didn't. He watched quietly. Not because he was curious, but because he recognized something others didn't. This wasn't fun energy. This wasn't celebration. This wasn't harmless noise. This was pressure building. People laughed to cover discomfort. Others pretended not to see. Some turned away. Steven stayed still. His eyes moved, his posture stayed relaxed, but his attention was locked. He had seen this pattern before. Not once, not twice, too many times. First comes disrespect, then comes dominance, then comes violence. But only if no one interrupts the pattern. Because real danger never arrives screaming. It arrives pretending to be nothing. It wears the mask of jokes, of confidence, of bravado. But beneath it is something darker, something unstable. Steven didn't need to hear threats, he didn't need to see weapons. The behavior itself was the warning. One man shoved another for no reason. Another laughed too loudly. Another stared too long. These were not accidents. These were tests. Testing the room, testing the people, testing how much they could get away with. And so far, no one stopped them. Not the bartender, not the crowd, not security, no one. Except Steven noticed he shifted slightly in his seat, not to prepare for a fight, but to prepare to prevent one. Because he understood something most people don't. Violence does not start with fists, it starts with permission. Permission to disrespect, permission to dominate, permission to cross lines. And every moment no one responds, that permission grows. Steven wasn't waiting for a knife. He wasn't waiting for a punch. He was watching the behavior. Because behavior always speaks before violence does. Most violent situations begin with small disrespect. Not weapons. The weapon comes later. One of the punks noticed Steven watching. "You got a problem," he snapped. Steven didn't respond. That only made it worse. The group laughed. One circled behind Steven. Another stepped closer. They wanted dominance, they wanted a reaction, they wanted chaos. Then it happened. One of them reached inside his jacket, metal sharp, catching the bar lights. A knife. Not raised yet, not swinging, just there, visible enough to send a warning. People nearby started moving back. The bartender froze mid-motion. Glasses clinked nervously. Conversation stopped. Steven finally spoke, calm and steady, low voice but full of authority. "Put that away. You don't want to go where this leads." The punk smiled, arrogant, challenging. "You don't tell me what to do." The others leaned in, eager to see the response, eager to test the man. Steven didn't flinch, he didn't raise his voice, he didn't move yet. He just watched. Every small detail, every shift in their posture, every finger twitch, every step closer. The knife bearer flexed his grip. The other punks circled like sharks, waiting for the first mistake. The room grew tighter. Every eye on them, everyone felt it. The tension was almost visible. Some wanted to intervene, some were frozen, some whispered to each other, hoping it wouldn't escalate. Steven stayed still, controlled, measured, calculating. He didn't underestimate them, he didn't overreact. He understood one thing clearly. They were dangerous because they thought they had the upper hand, because no one had stopped them yet. One false move, one overreaction, and this could turn deadly. But he had the choice to let it slide, or to take control. He chose control. When someone pulls a weapon in public, do you think calm words still work? Or is it already too late to stop what's coming? The knife glinted again, a small flash in the dim light, and everyone realized the next few seconds would decide everything. Steven could have acted immediately. He had ended worse situations before, faced armed criminals, trained his entire life for moments like this. But this wasn't about showing power. This was about preventing bloodshed. He stood slowly, not aggressively, not rushed, just controlled. He faced the group. "You still have time to walk away," he said calmly. "No one needs to get hurt tonight." The room shifted. The punks stopped laughing, not because they were afraid, but because they felt challenged, because someone was daring to stand without fear, and challenged men become dangerous. One whispered to another, "Let's show him." They exchanged glances, a plan forming, bravado mixing with recklessness. Steven didn't flinch, he didn't raise his voice, he didn't move forward, he simply observed. Every movement, every hesitation, every subtle cue. His training told him what to expect next. His instincts prepared him for every reaction, but he didn't act yet. He understood something the punks did not. Strength is measured in restraint, not in immediate retaliation. Control ends violence before it begins. The knife was still in view, hands twitching, eyes narrow, the tension thick enough to feel on skin. He could disarm them in seconds, could neutralize every threat before it escalated, could end it all with a single motion. But this wasn't ego, this wasn't pride, this was judgment, this was choice. The punks underestimated him. They thought aggression would force a response. They thought intimidation would work. They were about to learn the difference. Steven shifted his weight slightly, just enough to be ready, just enough to signal presence. "You don't need to hurt anyone tonight," he said again, low voice, firm, unshakable. The knife bearer hesitated. The others glanced at him, doubt flickered, pride struggled. And in that pause, Steven gained the advantage, not by moving first, not by striking, but by standing still with authority. Twist set up. Steven wasn't just a fighter. He wasn't just trained. He was something they couldn't see yet. A force masked as calm. Real strength is not reacting fast. Real strength is delaying violence even when you are fully capable of it. It is choosing control over chaos and patience over impulse. The bar held its breath, the moment stretched. The decision now belonged to the punks, not Steven. And that choice would define everything. The group surrounded him. One in front, one behind, one to the side. The knife came fully into view. Steven didn't move. "You really want to do this?" he asked. The punk lunged. Not to stab, not to kill, but to scare. Bad move. Steven shifted his weight, not away, but into the threat. He read the movement before it fully happened, anticipated the motion, controlled the arm. With a single, precise adjustment, he redirected the wrist, broke the attacker's balance, and sent him stumbling without striking. The knife fell. Gasps filled the room, phones came out, whispers rose, everyone froze. But here's the twist. That wasn't the real danger. The others rushed in, louder this time, faster, confident they could overwhelm him. The bar tightened around them. Chairs scraped, glasses clinked, music faded into the background, all eyes on Steven. He didn't flinch, he didn't panic, he didn't raise his voice. He stood steady, calm, measured, ready. The punks were banking on aggression, on chaos, on fear. They didn't account for control. Each step they took, Steven predicted. Each shift of their weight. He countered before it became a threat. One tried to grab his arm. Steven twisted, redirected, used the momentum to unbalance without harm. Another swung. Steven moved into it. Redirected again, maintained total control. The room's tension was electric, silent screams of disbelief. Everyone could see this wasn't just skill, it was discipline, it was authority, it was control over chaos. No punches, no kicks, no pain inflicted. Yet the punks were powerless, confused, frustrated, starting to lose coordination. Some paused, some hesitated, others tried again, and in each attempt, Steven remained calm, focused, unshakable. Every failed move widened the gap. Every misstep revealed their lack of understanding, and it became clear. This wasn't just a fight, it was a lesson. Engagement question. What do you think happens when one attacker fails? Do the others back down, or do they attack harder? The bar held its breath, the music still muted, the knife now on the floor. But the danger was not over. The next few seconds would decide who had power, the punks or the man they underestimated. Steven's eyes never left theirs, calm, confident, prepared for whatever came next. And the lesson was already being learned. Before the others could reach him, Steven raised his voice. Not in anger, not in panic, but in authority. Stop, they froze. Not because of fear, but because of something in his tone, something calm, something unshakable. Then he reached into his jacket. Not for a weapon, not for a fist, for a badge. I'm law enforcement, he said, and you're about to make the worst mistake of your lives. Silence, the room froze. The punks backed up, some hesitated, some whispered. All eyes on Steven, but one didn't. One rushed forward, knife raised, confident still in his stance. Steven moved. Fast, precise, no wasted motion, no rage, no chaos. In seconds the attacker was on the floor, not injured, not humiliated, but completely restrained. The knife clattered to the ground. The attacker's friends stopped dead, unsure what to do, their momentum gone. Steven stood over him, calm, controlled, breathing steady, every muscle relaxed but ready. This ends now, he said, low voice, firm, absolute. Security rushed in, police arrived moments later, the knife was recovered, the group was removed, no one was seriously hurt. The bar slowly exhaled, people whispered. Phones captured every moment, everyone saw something rare. No punches thrown, no kicks delivered, no chaos erupted. Just one man's discipline, stopping a violent outcome, with authority, not anger. The punks understood too late. That power doesn't shout, power commands. The lesson was clear, control beats rage, authority beats aggression, discipline beats chaos. Everyone in the room felt it, the fear, the respect, the understanding. This wasn't a fight, it was a demonstration of what happens when one man refuses to escalate, when one man chooses control over reaction. The attackers had overestimated themselves, the room had underestimated him, but Steven had already decided the outcome. And the outcome was peace, not through compromise, not through fear, but through mastery. Every breath he took, every step he made, every word he spoke reinforced the fact he was in control completely. The bar would never forget this night, not because of violence, not because of chaos, but because of authority, absolute and unchallenged. Explanation moment, power doesn't shout, power commands. The bar slowly returned to normal. People whispered, phones came out, videos were already spreading. Not because of violence, but because of restraint. Steven sat back down, calm, collected, finished his drink. No celebration, no ego, no chaos. He left quietly. By morning the footage was everywhere. Not titled, bar fight, not titled, knife attack. It carried a different message. Man stops armed attack without throwing a punch. And that's why it went viral. Not for blood, not for fear, not for chaos, but for control. People watched, shared, talked about it, not because someone got hurt, but because someone refused to let it happen. The lesson was simple. Power without control is dangerous. Control without power is invisible. The strongest person in the room is not the loudest, not the one who swings first, not the one who shouts the most. It is the one who can end violence without becoming violent. The bar would remember the night. The cameras would capture it. The story would spread, because moments like this are rare and unforgettable. Every whisper, every video, every comment was a reminder. Strength is discipline, authority is calm. Respect comes from action, not from rage. The punks learned it too late, the room learned it instantly. And the world saw it hours later, minutes later. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't a fight, it was a lesson, a demonstration of real power. The kind that doesn't need applause, doesn't need recognition, doesn't need revenge, just results. And the results spoke for themselves. The man in the bar, sitting quietly, watching, waiting, had shown more strength in one evening than most could in a lifetime. Final lesson. The strongest person in the room is not the loudest, it's the one who can end violence without becoming violent. More stories like this are coming, moments of calm and chaos, discipline in the face of threat, and lessons in real strength. If you noticed the details, if you felt the tension, if you understood the control, share your thoughts. Tell us which part impressed you most, and help us make the next story even stronger, because the world needs to see power used wisely, not recklessly.